During his early childhood, he had it hard coming up through the years. At the time of his death, he was labeled as a store clerk, but to the gospel music world, he was the voice and was respected by many great gospel artists, such as the Mighty Clouds of Joy, the Williams Brothers, the Violinaires, and the Jackson Southernaires. Don Linzy Dixon was the son of a Baptist preacher who sang his way out of the cotton fields of Georgetown, Mississippi, and into the hearts of many. Linzy was the founder, creator, coordinator, songwriter, and frontman for the Dixon Singers. He could elevate his voice to a very high pitch and keep it there for what seemed like forever, and finally bring it back down to a fiery preaching voice. The Dixons' Take a Message to Heaven album, recorded in 1979, is considered a classic by many and is probably one of the most sought-after gospel albums of all time. Unfortunately, Linzy's life was tragically cut short at the age of 26. Now, 34 years after his death, photos of his life, interviews from his family, fans, and friends, along with other memorabilia, provide an in-depth look into the singer's life. This is his story.
Get ready to leave now. We're getting ready to leave. You all clap your hands. You all stand on your feet.
People can see it, they can feel it. When they see him singing, you can feel it.
And everybody I know enjoyed him and wanted to hear him sing.
Saved and sanctified. You know, he would sing that song and he would get happy and he'd shout. He just danced all over the place.
And whatever he did, he believed in it. He put his whole heart and soul in it.
Things that is going on in the gospel industry today, he created, he had it in.
And he was just so brilliant.
He could do his own sessions.
He had a song that I had it hard coming up through the year. And Linzy did have a hard time.
Because my mom water broke. So I think that's what messed his skin up.
And all of a sudden the heart just stopped.
He went forward and messed his face all up.
Morning yard, cut his toe off.
Got kicked by music.
Bullets were coming from everywhere.
They shot the car up real bad. You wouldn't believe that a person would have lived out of that.
The Dixons were scheduled to be in New York and New Jersey with the Williams Brothers, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, and also the Reverend James Cleveland.
But the last words he said to me were, "Hold on."
Tragedy hit us all at once. It was downfall for everybody.
She told me, she said, "Vic, I raised 9 of y'all." She said, "Search the family over."
We go out on stage and everybody started crying. It was hard for them to accept, that he was gone, like it was for us.
Man, there's so much to say about Larry.
I love to hear him sing.
I got you. The world can't take it away.
God will see you through.
Oh, why am I treated so bad?
Take care of me.
Yeah, I got that.
And
that's a bad
The man could sing.
His voice, his music, his life. The Don Linzy Dixon story.
Y'all ready to have a good time?
You may not remember their first album. You may not remember their last album either. But surely you remember this one.
The Dixon singers were a strong contribution back in the late 70s.
It was a double volume album containing 16 songs, and every song on the album was a potential hit.
Dixon singer had the style that Staple singer a lot.
And I was just blown away about the way, how close they were to the Staple singer.
And Don was an outstanding singer.
I mean, this was a guy that could sing down to the lowest, but he could also sing up to the highest.
He could hold a note long, probably longer than anybody I've heard hold a note.
I've heard people come close, but I never heard nobody could match him.
You know, I just love that little squeal that he would do.
He just had a range, and he had a peak. He didn't have, it looked like he didn't have a peak.
Take care of me. Take care of me.
And for somebody to hold a breath that long, pushing air out, I don't know where it came from.
He had message in each song he sung. And them songs was pertaining to something he had experienced in life.
And he was always had this big dream. I'm gonna have my own record shop, and we gonna be the baddest group of rap.
Talk of the Town recording studio came about, and he was right where he wanted to be, you know, in the studio line. You know, he had just such a brilliant musicianal mind.
Everything he thought about involved music. He always thought about a song, and he always carried a song or two around in his head.
The way that we played, we would tune our instrument like a whole and a half step above the music scale.
They end up signing up with Malaco Recording Studio.
Destination, the #1 gospel quartet in the nation. But as fate would have it, Linzy would not live to see it.
Oh my God, how awesome this man would have been.
It was just a privilege of playing with this guy, and he was just a guy that was real ahead of his time in his music.
Linzy Dixon was the middle child of 9 children, along with Dorothy, Earl Jr., also known as June, Wilhelmina, Bernita, Brenda, Victor, Joe, David, and a niece, Shirley, who grew up on a farm picking cotton in Georgetown, Mississippi. Their father, Earl Carver Dixon Sr., was a member of a gospel group, the Spiritual Five. One day in 1956, while singing God's praises, he was called to preach God's words.
Well, my dad, he was a great man. You know, he taught us how to work together, how to love one another. He taught us how to be there for each other no matter what. Well, we always worked in the field from this high up. And no matter what, he was always encouraging us to be a winner. But anyway, at the end of the day, he would always compare us working together. So we always had to race, like racing against each other. So, but at the end of the day, he would still pay us all the same money. So I feel like what he was doing, he was just teaching us how to work and how to win at the same time.
Their mother taught school at Antioch and would often take little 3-year-old Linzy to school with her.
Linzy was a sweet, ordinary child. He wasn't like all the other children. He always liked to be, he was smiling. He was always had something funny to say. And I would take him to school with me. And I would have him dressed, and the teachers would call him preacher.
He and Bert, they used to get out there and sing. They was like 3 or 4 years old, you know, just get together and go to sing, and they'll make them a song up. If the mosquito bite me, I'm gonna bite him back.
We saw a bird fly across. We'd say, hey Don, let's write a song about a bird. You think it'll work?
And stuff like that, you know, just made their own songs up.
He was always liked to preach. Bert would sing, and we would go from church to church, and we would take them with us. And whatever preacher preached that Sunday, well, Linzy would come home and he would preach just like the preacher.
And Linzy's first sermon he preached was, "I'm gonna tell it on old Bert."
And why he would say that, Bert was always meddling it. And he would say, "I'm gonna tell it on old Bert." His grandmother always would tell him, "Come on, baby, and preach for me." And whenever we have company, the preacher, he would do the preaching.
It wasn't long afterward, in 1957, little Bernita was singing "Have Faith, Hope, and Charity," a song she learned from a wind-up toy guitar she got for Christmas.
He got about 5 or 6 years old. Well, Bert started singing. Everybody, they got a group together and started singing. And they were doing so good. And something spoke in there and told me to take my children out singing. And so I did. And as we go from place to place around Crystal Spring, Hazelhurst, and different churches to sing, they were doing so good. And Linzy would sing so good. And he was so sincere about his singing. And whenever he would come home in the evening time, he would be in the house there singing and going on so, and I'd be saying, "Oh Lord, this boy gonna run me crazy." But he was just that serious about his singing.
As a young boy,
Dorothy, being the oldest, would always care for her siblings, especially Linzy.
Okay, he was kind of on the rusty side, and I used to try to get his skin right, and he would say, "I don't see no need of doing this. It ain't gonna look no better anyway," but I would always try to make him look better, because his skin was so rusty. I think it was because he was supposed to have been premature born, because my mom water broke, but she still went to 9 months. So I think that's what messed his skin up.
By age 10, young Linzy was severely injured when he was thrown from a horse.
We had a horse, and my dad always told him not to ride the horse, but Don was just gonna ride it anyway.
You know how the guys be on TV hitting the horse and making him run and stuff. So he was gonna try it too.
And everything we do, we always had to do it, because when my dad tells us not to do something, and we don't do it, so when we do it, we had to do it, in a slipping way. So Don was just gonna take the horse and just ride him, and real fast before he got through feeding him. And just as he got started riding the horse, he was gonna try to make the horse ride faster and faster and faster and faster, and all of a sudden the horse just stopped.
He just went
that way.
He went forward and messed his face all up.
Then now we got to tell my mom and my daddy what happened.
Everybody thought he was gonna really, he had all kind of, scars and things on his face and stuff.
Almost a year later, in 1965, something else happened.
Don, he was always accident prone.
He was out there one rainy day mowing the yard.
We had one of them old timey mowers, where you push, and he was mowing the yard. Instead of him getting down, taking the grass away from under there, he gonna do it with his feet.
Cut his toe off.
It cut 3 of them, but it cut one of them all the way off.
He didn't even know his toe was cut off. He just coming like, "Man, I hurt my feet," like that.
But anyway, he survived that too.
I remember one time, he got kicked by a mule.
Well, we always had, chores to do every day, feed the hogs, the mules, cows, whatever.
And that was our job and our life. We thought that's the only thing we had to do, go to church and on the farm. So on the farm, we would get up in the morning time, early in the morning. My mom, she would fix us. We would go to the field at daybreak, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whichever one day came. And she would fix our breakfast while we in the field. And while when time for breakfast to come, to eat breakfast, she would call us and we eat breakfast and go back to the field. And so that morning, Don was going out there to get the mule out of the stable. And so as he was gonna get the mule out of the stable, the mule kicked him in the back of his head, kicked him out of the stable. I don't know if Don did anything mischievous to the mule, but he wouldn't let that mule wouldn't let Don get him that morning. And do you believe that he had his whole not shoe print, it looked like a shoe print, but his footprint was marking in Don's head.
And when we did things, you know, we always took it to the limit. You know, it could have been that he might have been messing with the mule.
But he said my grandmama, who she's dead, said she come across, you know, his bed and said when she left, said he had no more pain. Said he was having a hard time with that, you know.
We thought we had lost him, but you know, the Lord saved him, you know.
He had so many trials and tribulations through his life. I asked the Lord one time, you know, why we couldn't take some of that he was going through with.
By now, Bert quickly became known for her strong voice. However, her stardom came with a price. She started to get tired of everyone wanting her to sing, so she blurted out,
"I am tired of always having to sing."
Shortly thereafter, Bert was diagnosed with laryngitis and couldn't talk. She then prayed,
"Lord, please give me back my voice, and I will sing for you for the rest of my life."
Her voice returned more powerful and deeper than before. Later, her brother decided to form a singing group with her and their siblings.
June told me to buy him a guitar, he would play it. I said, "Oh boy, you can't play no guitar."
So he started practicing with Reverend Baggage down in Georgetown. And I think he had 2 practices with Reverend Baggage. And they say no, he was playing the guitar.
I went on and his whole set of guitar, with mic and amplifier and everything, it cost but $99.99.
And so that's how the music come about.
The singing group consisted of Dorothy, Wilhelmina, Bert, and Lindsay, and June as lead singer and guitar player.
But Don mostly led the singing.
When the group started singing, and they were doing so good, was Copiah Dixon Jr. and Betty Dixon, their sister, joined.
Tommy C. Hodges, better known as Kiki, also joined the group as the bass guitar player.
He had a record player, and that's why he was saying so many songs of the staple singer. So after they were sung so long, and then they began to call and name themselves the Dixon Singers.
Well, now when I was a little bitty baby, my mama would rock me in that cradle in that old cotton field back home. Now window. See, that's some true song.
When we started roll cucumber, cotton, or whatever we was doing that day, we would always start that row together. And no matter who worked the fastest, who get out first, whoever did whatever, they would have to come back and help the ones that behind out. And then when everybody out, then we'll start the next row.
Getting ready for the next morning. Fellas, y'all wait a minute. Let me say this right here.
Don was he was the fastest cotton picker of the bunch.
Especially when it come to hoeing cotton. He would just hold that cotton so fast, and he'd be out. We'd be just in the middle of the field, and he's out at the end of the row all the time.
Well, I can see my daddy right now. He said, "Well, children, we got to work hard. So I want y'all to get 200 today."
Whatever his daddy told him to do, he would do. He worked hard, tried to make the other kids mind. If they didn't do and come up to par what his father wanted to do, he would get out and work extra hard to try to make it come up to what his daddy told him to do.
Window, son, you can't pick much cotton.
I kind of like learned how to pick cotton from them.
In the old cotton fields back, so I know.
The time that we was in the field, it wasn't no measure on it. I was Linzy a competition.
I never could beat him, but I wasn't far behind him.
He was the leader for the boys, and I was the leader for the girls.
What I mean, but y'all go ahead. Get me something today.
Daddy said he wanted 300 pounds. He got 300 pounds.
Lord, them good days.
Linzy, he could beat me just a little bit, but not much. We would reach and grab just like it was like we saw thousands of dollars just fall on the ground.
I miss my papa. I even miss my sister and brother.
And we would just pick and pick and pick. And Linzy, he wouldn't let nobody like touch him, catch up with him. He'd be far from us and kind of like looking out on the side, trying to see is anybody catching up with him.
Somebody else did 300, he had to get 301. That's just the way he was.
He didn't have much on me, but we was the top leaders, Linzy and I.
In the more cotton fields. So I just want to sing that a little while. In the more cotton fields. Huh?
And he would work hard like that. Then when he get home, he would start to singing again.
But to the Dixon children, there was more to picking cotton than just picking cotton.
Like when we was little, Don and Bert used to have this little thing we used to play because we'd be in the field, we had to do something. So we used to make up little things to do. So Don would always say he's gonna be a preacher, and Bert was gonna be the singer. So we was always in the back of the church. Playing church. We play in church now. We was in the back of the church, so we was the members. So every time Don would get up to try to preach, and Bert do a song, so we was in the back of the church doing the shouting and all that stuff. So everything we used to see that on Sunday, like my dad would take us to church, and everything that we saw happening that Sunday, through the week, we were playing church in the field. That was our little break time.
We played in the cotton field, and we did what we had to do also. And so, it just was those good old times.
We had a high school talent show one time, and Don wanted to be in it.
The year was 1972. 18-year-old Linzy Dixon, now a senior in high school, along with classmates John Jordan, Scotty Hicks, Nathaniel Powell, Gregory Johnson, Michael Barkley, and a few others as the backup band took center stage.
So he sung the song by Al Green, Let's Stay Together. He sung that song. I mean, he had the crowd just, roaming and groaming. He sung that song so good, just like Al Green in a real sense.
In a real sense that it landed Linzy in the high school yearbook as one of the most talented students at Crystal Springs High School.
So we couldn't sing blues song, because that was a no-no for us. So he said, well, since I can sing like this, I think he surprised himself too by singing that great.
Linzy's performance took him to another level, a level that sparked a new beginning for the Dixon singers. 22-year-old Douglas Harris had come on board as a background singer.
To me, Don Linzy Dixon was a very extraordinary person. He was a person with strong determination, a strong belief in God, and he had a way of doing things that was different, especially in his singing career. He liked to really go to the depths of a song and really bring out the fullness of it. That's what I liked about him as a singer.
Shortly after, 17-year-old Keith Beecham became the group's first drummer.
I was just getting ready to turn 17, and Doug came over. He knew I was in the band playing the drums, and he came over to ask my father, and he asked Sue also, because they were classmates, but to ask my family could I play the drums with him before he asked me. And of course, I was excited about it. And in the year I spent with Linzy, he was just awesome to be around, to see the inspiration that he was bringing to the table and the inspiration he was going to move forward with, because he wasn't stopping. Linzy was in the 12th grade back then. I was in my last year of school, and we kind of hit off in that. I knew he was moving forward. He wanted to go into the recording business. That's what he always talked about, working in studios and things of that nature after he leaves school. But he knew I was going in the military.
Linzy, I tell you, we were great friends.
Eddie Taylor remember meeting Linzy back in the early 70s.
I tell you, the first time I met Linzy, we was at his cousin Luther Gardner's mother, well, their church on Craft Street. And we used to get them to come down to sing. You know, we used to have programs once a month. And so Linzy and them came down to sing, because they sing the Staple Singers songs. And so, I mean, and I was just blown away by the way, how close they were to the Staple Singers. And so we talked and you know, we talked about the music business and stuff like that. And he was telling me, you know, about the avenues that he wanted to go in, you know, as far as recording and stuff, because at that time they didn't have a recording. And so we just went around different churches, you know, singing together, you know, because we had a little group called the Gospel Cherubims, and they was Dixon singers. And so then I tell you, we just had a fantastic time, you know, and traveling up and down the road, you know, singing at these different churches.
Shortly after Linzy graduated from high school, May 17, 1973, drummer Keith Beecham went into the military, but not before relinquishing his drumsticks to his younger brother, Dwayne.
Don Dixon, he was a good guy in my book. He was laid back. I particularly like his personality. He's a jokester that I can remember. Who was in the group at that time? I remember Linzy, of course, the lead singer, his brother Earl, his sisters Doc.
I was more like a background singer, so every once in a while I would lead a song. I could lead Precious Lord. That's about it.
Wilhelmina was singing with them.
I couldn't sing, but they didn't tell me that I couldn't sing. They took it. They took me, and we sung, and then because I couldn't sing like them, they tell me don't sing too loud. No, don't go too loud.
There were also Douglas Harris singing tenor and a 23-year-old keyboard player, fresh out of the military, by the name of Frederick Beecham.
My brother, Dwayne, I think he was in the group playing drums at that particular time, and he's the one that kind of got me involved. They were kind of looking for a keyboard player, and you know, back in the day I was playing piano pretty good. I played for my church and all, and you know, he kind of mentioned it to them, and they kind of come to me with it, and I went over and did a practice session with them, and then it kind of was on from there.
And with Sister Burt sharing the lead vocals with Linzy and sounding more like Mavis Staples of the Staple Singers, the Dixon Singers were on their way.
Boy, we played in some wonderful places, from anywhere from Texas to Michigan. Flint, Michigan. We was up in Chicago a few times. Of course, we've been in Louisiana locally.
In the summer of 1973, the Dixon Singers recorded their first 45 on Glory Records.
Believe it or not, I forget the name of this 45. I guess given my age, I'm getting to be an old man now.
The name of the 45 was Saved and Sanctified.
The 45 itself, it was a wonderful experience for Linzy because it was our first. Well, not just Linzy, but for the whole group. Actually, it was a wonderful experience. Hey, we finna make a record. And so, you know how we got the big head on that, but it was a wonderful occasion.
A wonderful occasion that caught keyboard player Frederick Beecham by surprise.
Glory to God today.
I think we were in rehearsal one day. Don was talking about trying to work on another rendition of I'll Go. And they had me to kind of sing the lead part on that, which surprised me, because it was just out of the blue, because, you know, I never really thought that I would be singing with them. But anyway, and we did that, and after we rehearsed it a couple of times, it was pretty good. And I think the biggest surprise was when they went to the Malaco deal whatsoever that we were going to try and record that as being one of the numbers, and it came up there, and I just went with it then, because that was actually a blessing to me. That kind of helped fulfill the dream of mine.
The first time I actually saw the Dixon singers sing was in 1974 at the radio station, WMDC.
We played there, quite a few Sunday mornings live. Quite a few Sunday mornings. The whole group, I don't know how we got in that packed room, I don't know, but it was wonderful.
I was playing with the Christian Travelers at the time, and we all had a 15-minute program on the radio. The Christian Travelers.
A lot of fun at the radio station. We'd meet up at WBC, and we would laugh every time we'd go in and sing. And sometimes we sang together. One would help this one, and some would help this one if you didn't have everybody you needed.
The Everetties, and also the Dixon singers. And man, when the Dixon singers got up to do their 15 minutes, it was like a concert. Man, those guys could really sing. I hated those guys because they were so good.
And when he sang, you know that he was singing for God. That was my train of thought. You know that it was coming from the heart. You know that it was for real. There wasn't no playing in that deal. And the singing helped me through some trying times during my teenage years. Listening to the words and the melody, even the music, helped me through some trying times. I can't even begin to put that into words, how they helped me in song. I was young in the ministry, still learning in that learning mode, and I had to take it the way it was coming to me. And at that time, for the most part, it was coming to me through music. And Linzy happened to be at the head of the list during those years.
Glory to God.
It wasn't long after their first 45 release, drummer Dwayne Beecham goes into the military. His drumsticks are passed on to his younger brother, Mark.
And I followed them around for quite some time and having a desire to play for the group. And the doors came open. I had the opportunity to play for the group. I began playing for the group back in around 73. One morning, they needed of a drummer, and so Reverend Harris came and picked me up one Sunday morning. I'll never forget it. 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock that Sunday morning, but Sunday night, I was on those drums. And that was one of the greatest things that happened because I love the music, I love the gospel music, and my brother Linzy singing it, I sure wanted to play behind him because I seen even then, not really knowing and having the knowledge, but I knew then that God was using him and bringing the people in, and the songs that he was singing had a message to it.
Wilhelmina, who was singing with them, got married and she had to drop out.
And when she dropped out, then Vic took over. And after Vic took over, then they began to get on the road going singing around the state.
Don, he was a type of individual that loved people, and he just loved to sing.
Really, what got him interested in singing was Al Green. He loved Al Green. He loved Dr. Moore and Blair that sang with the Volunteers.
If he couldn't, he'd rather sing and eat. And talking about eating, now he took me down to his mother's house. His mama would cook these biscuits, man, I tell you, and she would cook a great big pan of biscuits just for Don, because he loved to eat biscuits. And so we got hold to some pear preserve, and that's all we would eat. And every time he would pick me up and say, man, let's go by your mom, man, and get some biscuits.
Not only did Linzy have a love for his mother's biscuits, but for automobiles, one car in particular.
Yeah, well, Don had a 1972 Chevy Impala. It was black. As a matter of fact, he called it the Black Hawk.
Beautiful car. I remember him because of that, because he went through so many changes in getting that car together.
He worked and paid for himself, because he was, he was the kind of person that liked to do things for himself.
And back in that day, to have a car like that, if a young boy like that too, so he had the best of the best, so he loved that car.
There was only about 2 around here like that.
Linzy's cousin, Bobby Dixon, owner of this 1972 Chevrolet Capri, which is very similar in body style to Linzy's 1972 Impala, reminisced about the good old days.
Okay, me and Linzy, we raced in this car, this 72 Chevrolet. He had a black one, I had this white and black, and he beat me, so I lost on that one. But he was a good friend and relative of mine, sure was.
And man, it was about the fastest car that we ever seen.
And he bought all kind of things to make it like a race car. He wanted fast, and he drove it fast. So he was, that's another thing that was, he was very good at it, dealing with them cars.
And I imagine on the night that the police got after him on that chase, he didn't have no doubt in his mind that he was gonna outrun him, because that baby doll that he had, that black Chevy, he put the pedal to the metal.
He was dating this girl in Mendenhall, and he was going over there to see her, and the record was it always that when you go to Mendenhall you have to drive carefully anyway, or dodge the police, because they would pick on young blacks. They went to the store that night to get something to drink. They seen the police parked on the side of the grocery store. When he got ready to leave the girl's house to go home, he said he just looked in his rearview mirror and there was the police behind him. And in the middle of the night, the police stole the lights on him, and he said, "I'm not stopping because I'm out in the middle of nowhere." And the record was, if they stopped you in the middle of the night, they can beat you or they can do anything to you. And sometimes some people never got found again, So he didn't stop. But what he was saying, he wasn't really trying to outrun the police. He was trying to get where if he did have to stop, somebody could be there with him.
He told us that he went to the stop sign and all the police was there, and he said some just kept telling him not to get out the car. And said when they started approaching him approaching the car, then he just hit it.
So they chased behind him. Next thing you know, he said after he called the car the Black Hawk, right? He said he put the Black Hawk and he just started running.
And somehow or another he ran through 3 roadblocks.
And see, by the car being as fast as it was, that's what made everything, made him outdo them,
So he said he had to dodge down and drive like this. Bullets were coming from everywhere.
They hit and missed, and missed and hit.
But they shot the car up real bad. They shot it up. Side.
You just had to see the bullet holes that were on the side of his car.
Back.
And his back window was just totally out.
Really, if you had looked at the car, you wouldn't have believed that a person would have lived out of that.
But he said he just kept driving and cut his lights off and kept driving.
The police's highway patrol and all was at the Mississippi, at the Pearl River. He turned off a mile right before he got there.
My sister Bert used to live on that area. So he said instead of going across the Pearl River to go home, he turned to go down where Bert lived.
So Bert been his scapegoat for a long time.
And that's how he lost, really.
One night they come and picked him up and they told him, said, "Don't let him out your sight, because if he half as fast as that car, he gonna get away from him."
But I was told that if he gone across that Copiah Creek, that bridge over there, that he probably would have been dead, because they had that gun that would shoot and it would bust the motor up, Naturally would have gotten him.
Everything Don did, it was a downfall. But guess what? He never give up and he never stopped. the victory still was his. He was an overcomer in everything that he did.
So I'm glad he made that turn. And he went through all kinds of things. And the things that you thought would have taken his life, you know, he survived all of that.
Oh yeah, it was a life experience. With them, it was always, with Linzy.
Brenda Ketchens, who was Tommy Hodges' fiance at the time, remembered and reminisced the early 70s.
Thomas C., who was my ex-husband, who was my husband-to-be husband at the time, he and Linzy, they would get together. Sometimes we would go by his mother's house, Thomas C.'s mother's house, which she played music and sang. She was a blues person. But they got, Linzy got a thrill out of just seeing her. And they all would get together and they would take, her main song was When I Was a Child and Sitting on My Mother's Knee. They would take that song. Linzy would take it and with her playing her guitar, Thomas C. on the bass, they would take that song and they would put it in another version. Just at that time, you knew how great he was and how great he would be and how he was so blessed. He inspired her, which she never, all she played was the blues. But when he came up, when Linzy came, along with her son, Thomas C., it was a whole different story. I mean, we saw a different, we call her Sister Baby. I saw a different Sister Baby. I saw a different Thomas C. And Tyree with his, y'all come on get it together with his slow talking. Linzy's in charge. They gonna argue about 30 minutes before they got one note. It would always be about 30 minutes before one note. I'm just sitting on the side, come on and y'all play something. They would start and if Thomas C would let Linzy play the bass guitar, he would get that, let me get y'all right.
By 1974, keyboard player Frederick Beecham had left the group, and the Dixons recruited a 26-year-old Army vet by the name of Tyree Tanner to take his place.
When I first went in with Don, he said, man, why don't we put you on organ and bring Juicy on bass?
Linzy, he was the type of person that he believed in whatever he did, he believed in it, and he put his whole heart and soul in it, and he never let anything stand in his way.
Shortly after, 17-year-old Congo player Gregory Beecham from Detroit, Michigan, moved to Hazelhurst.
Well, I got in the group in '75, and I went to a rehearsal with Mark. He was playing drums at the time, and I played congos, and I just wound up in the group from there.
And Don said, I'm gonna make you the music director of the group. And Don started putting lyrics and stuff together. The Dixon singer had the style of Staple singing a lot. I said, Don, man, we all try to change the style just a little bit. Don said, yeah, I don't know. And I started coming in playing some kind of beat. I used to play with a swing band. I took some of that beat, and Don got together, putting lyrics and stuff together, and we created another style.
We thought that we was great at that time. Well, we had learned how to really sing, you know, and sing as a group.
I showed this album cover to a lot of my family members in Guyana. And since I was the odd one dressed, they thought I was the lead singer. And I don't even sing.
When we first cut that first album, it wasn't the best of playing, but that was pretty good.
My mom started making our outfits.
It started with Linzy again, because like I say, he always wanted to be different. He didn't want to be like any other singers that were there. So the way he most of the time he described what he wanted. And my mom, she taught me how to sew. And so we started making the clothes together. She would make the pants and I would make the jackets. Don would just tell us what he wanted. And we would always pick out material that stood out on the stage, so that way whatever they had, when they walk up, it's just gonna be like, wow. You know, that was his whole thing about it.
Got to the chair right now.
And after they started traveling from to and fro, going to different places singing, then Dorothy had to quit because she had a home and she had to work and take care of home.
Somebody better understand. I think we need to take this thing up a little bit higher, fellas. Listen.
In my whole life of career of gospel singing, I've never seen a person more dedicated to singing and more dedicated to doing a unique job of singing than him.
I feel like Don was a mentor to me coming up, because every time that Don would come to the house, you know, when the Dixon singers practiced, they practiced on my dad's porch. It was just an awesome time, and I never will forget one day when the Dixon singers were practicing, man, everybody would get a free concert that day. Out there in the neighborhood, everybody, I'm talking about when the Dixon singers would practice, man, they would set up on the porch, and people from, it wasn't like you were like disturbing my house, or everybody would come around in the neighborhood with, man, he had a whole crowd, and the Dixon singer would just give the people a concert in rehearsal, man, and I really miss them days.
In the early fall of 1976, 22-year-old Linzy Dixon met 23-year-old Freddie Singleton, a background singer for the gospel cherubins.
Well, when I met him, music was his whole life. Everything he thought about involved music and songs that he always thought about a song. He always carried a song or two around in his head and thinking about putting it on paper. And he loved church, going to church and being able to sing and that sort of thing. I mean, music was just, the first thing I learned about him was his love for music. And I used to follow the group around a good bit, and I enjoyed listening to them and be around him when he would be just nobody but him, just playing drums or guitar. Sometimes the two of us would get together and just hit a few notes together or whatever, and that was enjoyable to me. And a lot of times I wondered what it would be like if I could play an instrument with their group or be a part of the group in some way. So I guess it made me feel a part of what he was doing, to try to play guitar and sit at the drums and pretend I was playing drums. And he used to try to give me some chords on the guitar or tell me how to play the drums, and we'd have laughs over that because I'd get all mixed up and no sound really came out, but it was good fun.
By the end of 1976, the Dixon Singers had signed on with J&B Records. Named after its owner, James Bennett, J&B Records wasn't only a record label, but a record shop based in Jackson, Mississippi, with a roster of artists that included the Canton Spirituals, the Soulful Gospel Messengers, the Sensational Brown Brothers, Redemption, and the True Believers.
I'm thinking of a man called Joe, a man who had everything.
In the early spring of 1977, the Fantastic Dixon Singers, as they were now called, featuring Don Linzy Dixon, released One Thing the World Can't Take Away.
I got one thing this world can't take away. I got one thing the world can't take away. You may kill my mind, lay me down in my grave. I got one thing, well, I just want to say this, listen.
The group consisted of Mark Beecham on drums, Gregory Beecham on congos, Julius Rose on bass, Earl Dixon on lead guitar, Victor Dixon first tenor, Douglas Harris second tenor, Bernita Dixon leading baritone, and Linzy out front.
One of the high points that I remember well is when would do the song, I Got Jesus and the World Can't Take It Away. And it was just something about that song that he really got into it, and really got spiritual with it.
He could do that little squeaky hollering, that little loud hollering.
I got Jesus.
He ain't all that little loud hollering. I can't say it like it, but he know he could bring that on.
And it seemed like it uplifted, the audience. And it's just one of the highlights of, me being around.
Another highlight, it was along this time that Linzy decided he would change his name.
Don Linzy Dixon, his name really is Linzy Don Dixon. But he just liked it, Don Linzy. He just liked it, Don Linzy. And so the first album we done, which was I Got One Thing the World Can't Take Away, Don decided that he would put his name as Don Linzy Dixon. And it's been that way ever since.
He was a good show. It was a good show whenever he put on one for the Lord. He had it in his heart to do the Master's will, I believe.
The One Thing the World Can't Take Away album propelled the group to another level and made them a hot item on the gospel circuit. Now Linzy was ready to hit the road full time. But there was a problem standing between the group and the road. Drummer Mark Beecham was still in high school. The fantastic Dixon singers were now in need of a drummer. Not to mention a set of drums. I joined the Dixons, I believe it was in the summer of 1977. And 3 weeks after I joined, I was kicked out of the group. Boom, kicked out of the group. But we all worked it out with their record label, J&B Records. James Bennett, who was their producer at the time. And hey, and it's been a memorable ride ever since.
Most of the happy times out on the road was, well, I think every time was a happy time out there with Don. He was so lively and energetic, and he was just a person just fun to be with all the time. But I think the most scariest time out there with Don was when they all got together and threw me in the pool in San Bernardino, California. They had to come in and get me. I almost drowned. It was a real scary moment, but it was fun though.
But being on the road for Linzy wasn't enough. He had a much bigger dream.
And he was always had this big dream. I'm gonna have my own record shop, and we gonna be the baddest group around. That's all he talked about. What he gonna do.
And so as time went by, then we Talk of the Town recording studio came about. And I was telling them about this studio, and so Don came by the studio and met he met Nathan Baldwin, and really met Haven, because me and Haven, we just play together. And so then they kicked it off, and he was right where he wanted to be, in the studio line, and he was just so brilliant. He had just such a brilliant musicianal mind, and so, I didn't know that, he could play any instruments. So he picked up bass guitars and, just started feeling with the bass. And I tell you, and from that point, man, and he just bought into the studio because that's where he wanted to be.
Soon after, Eddie bought into the studio. Now Talk of the Town had a staff that consisted of Eddie Taylor, Don Linzy, Hiram Griffin, and Nathaniel Baldwin.
We started off recording on a 4-track. Then we went from the 4-track to 8-track. And then Malaco was, changing out their machinery. So we ended up getting their, old stuff. And so that's where the big thing began.
Linzy helped to produce, arrange, record, and mix songs for other local gospel artists, like Lillian Joyner Lilly, who is currently a member of the Stellar Award-winning Mississippi Mass Choir, and also a national recording artist in her own rights.
What I would like to say about Linzy is, first I want to say it was to know him was the love. He was a guy, he was dedicated in what he was doing, and most of all, he knew what he was doing. And one of the things that I really loved about Linzy, he would try to help you in any way he could. Back when we did the recording, he worked with us day and night to make sure that we had good quality, and I think it came out real good.
In 1978, Linzy recorded and mixed the Gospel Cherubim's first 45, whom his fiancee Freddie Singleton was a member of, along with Viola Reese, Carolyn Sharber, and Luther Gordon.
And, we got a lot of fame through following Don around. Our group and their group worked together for years together, and a dynamic person in the studio. And his mixing is that we were able to really captivate an audience with our own style of music. And he showed us a lot of ropes and a lot of things to do up there in the gospel field. And like I said, his life was an inspiration to our whole group because he was able to do just about anything in the gospel field that we were looking for.
It wasn't long afterward, Roy Smith, a cousin of the Dixons, approached Linzy about helping him record a song about the May 15, 1970 Jackson State killings of 21-year-old Philip Gibbs and 17-year-old James Green.
It made nationwide the tragedy on Jackson campus, and somebody should do a song about those guys that's passed on. Everybody's got amnesia, and the same thing can happen again. So let's do something.
We are all here seeking an education, not aware of the cruel situation.
The day before the tragedy, a group of student protesters against the Vietnam War, specifically the U.S. invasion of Cambodia, were confronted by city and state police. Shortly after midnight, the police opened fire, killing 2 students and injuring 12.
And we did the song, The Battle of Gibbs and Green. It was #1 in Lake City, South Carolina. It was #4 in St. Louis, Missouri. It did get around the nation.
Linzy played a major role in not only recording and mixing the song, he sung all of the background parts and the lead vocals on part 2, as well as played the drum tracks.
I mean, this one was amazing. He could do his own sessions, and he would, program the 24 track or whatever, and then run to the studio and then, put the headphones on and then sing.
Doing that in good faith, so people would not forget that possibility of the same thing can happen again.
Also in 1978, the Dixon singers were working on their new album, but long before it would be finished, bass player Julius Rhodes leaves the group. In the summer of 1979, the Dixons released Take a Message to Heaven, recorded at the Copiah County studio.
To nobody.
It was a double volume album containing 16 songs.
I have a soul.
5 of the songs recorded live. And every song on the album was a potential hit. Even the title track. And Saved and Sanctified. But the one song that would outdo all others and make the Take a Message to Heaven album one of the most sought after gospel albums of all times is Take Care of Me.
Take care of me. Oh, please 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 take care of me. Take care of me. Take care of me. Take care of me.
As if that wasn't enough, even the album's label and the album's cover jacket got just as much attention as the songs themselves. And not only that, the Dixons could have won Best Album of the Year Art Award had there been such an award. But Talk of the Town Studios didn't have the proper marketing or distribution to distribute the album, and the Dixons needed a bass guitar player in order to hit the road to promote their new project. Linzy was the type of person, driven, determined, wasn't going to let anybody or anything stand in his way. I remember one time on a program, we didn't have a bass player. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, so it's just me in June. So the promoter, the Dixon Singers, the fantastic Dixon Singers. So the Dixon Singers come out, Linzy comes out with the bass, with a gooseneck microphone tied to the bass. He come out playing, singing a song, and he wasn't missing a beat, wasn't missing a note, and singing the song. And he did a pretty good job on playing the song and singing the song. He really got us through those kind of times because he was driven, determined, but we still needed a bass player.
Y'all ready to have a good time? Are y'all ready to have a good time? Let me see everybody put your hands together. Look here.
I remember when I first got in the group of the Dixons, shortly after I graduated from Mississippi Valley State University, around about 1978. And they used to always practice over to my mom's house all the time. And I used to come out there and just listen to them because they were sounding so good. And when they leave, I would play the song that they had just got to rehearsing on because, you know, Steve wanted me to play along with him so we can get his practice in, my brother Steve. When Don found out that I could play, and when he came to see me play, he realized that I was left-handed. and I was playing the bass guitar bottom sides upper on the left-hand side. What's so extraordinary about it, the string was bottom sides upper. The big bass string was on the bottom, and the lift string was on the top. And Don was amazed how was I playing a guitar like that, and the string bottom sides upper. So that was one of the unique thing about me playing. But to Don felt like that was something unique, and that was something good for the program. He said, So when he was showing me the song, he sometimes would have to bend his head down a little bit because I was playing bottom sides upper. But he showed me all the songs he wanted me to play. And man, Don was just good in playing the bass. I mean, he was really, really good. So he showed me what he wanted me to play on the song. So he showed me all the songs, all the routines that they were going to perform that particular night. We were going out to Texas to play. So we got the song down pat and got the routine down pat, and we hit the road.
By now, the Take a Message to Heaven album was spreading like wildfire, and radio stations and record companies across the nation were taking notice. In 1980, 6 months after the album's release on Talk of the Town's label,
they ended up signing up with Malaco Recording Studios,
along with a few changes. But now, being on a national label and the core of the group in place, with Steve Collins on drums, Earl Collins on bass, Earl Dixon lead guitar, Victor Dixon first tenor, Douglas Harris second tenor, Bernita Dixon lead and baritone, and Linzy out front, the Dixons were no doubt on their way. Destination, the #1 gospel quartet in the nation. But as fate would have it, Linzy would not live to see it.
One day, don't you know I'm coming home. One day. We're getting ready to leave now. We're getting ready to leave. You all clap your hands. You all stand on your feet. If the Lord been good to you, you can't sit there.
January the 20th, 1980, a concert at the Parish High School Gymnasium in Hazelhurst that also featured Lillian Joyner and the Christian Travelers would be the last home concert by the Dixons before Linzy's death on June 14th.
I've been
saved and sanctified. You know, he would sing that song, he would get happy, he'd shout, he'd just dance all over the place.
Don do it from his heart. People can see it, they can feel it. When they see him singing, you can feel it.
And everybody I know enjoyed him and wanted to hear him sing.
And he was singing so hard, and he was singing so long until he started crying. You know, most people when they be singing, they don't take it from their heart. But he would take it from his heart, because you don't see a person just sing until he cry.
March 6, approximately 4,000 people jammed the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas to see Inez Andrew, the Jackson Southern Heirs, the Williams Brothers, the Truthettes, and what they had heard so much about, the Dixons.
Around me, and I'm here to tell you I'm so glad about it. Well, I don't know what the Lord's done for you, but it's been mighty good to me. I believe I'll say it just one more time.
During the month of April, the Dixons were billed with other national artists like Troy Raymond and the show-stopping Soul Searchers, Walter Hawkins and the Hawkins Family, and the Mighty Clouds of Joy.
There was another song he would always sing, Take Care of Me. And you know, I just love that little squeal that he would do. Now, I can't really do it myself or something.
I just like how he get on down there and moan and groan with it. And he wasn't saying it for just the word. He was saying it from his heart.
I'd say, for my opinion, there'll never be another voice like Don.
Linzy's voice was spectacular.
Unique. You just can't put a caliber on Linzy's voice.
I mean, this was a guy that could sing down to the lowest, but he could also sing up to the highest.
Oh, I know you got problems in your life, but if you trust in Jesus.
He had a range, man, that was out of this world.
Sometimes you scare me sometimes you hold his voice so long, you know.
And for somebody to hold his breath that long, pushing air out, I don't know where it came from.
He could hold a note long as, probably longer than anybody I've heard hold a note. And his depth was so unique.
I've heard people come close, but I never heard nobody could match him.
I love to hear him sing.
When my friends deceive me, oh, I want you to help me. When they skin lost my feet.
Don was the type of a singer that, well, I'm gonna say it this way, he was the type of singer that could do it all. Tenor singing, he was one of the best. Baritone singers, he's one of the best. Lead singer, he's one of the best.
Blair, he heard him, they was on show together once, and Blair tried his best to get him. You know, cause man, he was singing top over Sharp and Paul Beasley. Man, I mean, all those guys had to stand back and look at him because he just had a range and he had a peak. It looked like he didn't have a peak.
Take care of me. Take care of me. Take care of me. Take care of me.
You know, he could go and go and go and look like he never got tired, you know, and his voice never broke.
And most of all, in having a unique voice and good voice is knowing what to do. You know, a lot of people can sing, but they don't know how to sing. So he knew he could sing and he knew how to sing.
In other words, he was just a soul-touching singing person. That's what he was.
I tell you what, I don't know where that voice came from.
And I know God was, you know, I know he had to be the tuner of his voice.
He would go out. When he realized he had the voice that he had, he did so much to try to change it, and he did all this in his own way.
He would always go through the house just to be hollering, loud as he could holler. I said, boy.
I mean, he knew he could just sing regular, but he always tried to push his voice to the limit.
But I didn't know at that time he was training his voice to to use it any kind of way he wanted to. But that's what he would do. He would just go through the house hollering, and he'd change from one tune to another one, you know.
And he would sometimes get out there in the woods and just holler as loud as he can holler and hold his voice as long as he can hold it, just to test himself how much and how great he can be. And when he started getting so good at it, he would have us to get like the little watch and time and how long he can just hold his voice.
And I really think that's how he learned to use his voice in more than one way. Because, you know, he really practiced it.
The way that we played, we would tune our instrument like a whole and a half step above the music scale. And I couldn't figure out why we had to, you know, the tune so high or so low. What it was, Don was just playing way below and high beyond the music scale. And that's why it was so hard for us to tune. It would take us sometimes 30 minutes to tune up because of the scale that Don was playing in.
While the Take a Message to Heaven album continued to spread like wildfire, the Dixons were back in the studio at Talk of the Town, laying down music tracks for a new project. Michael Russell, who often toured with the Dixons as second lead guitarist, would often help Linzy in the studio during recording sessions.
He always thought about a song, and he always carried a song or two around in his head and thinking about putting it on paper.
May 11th, Mother's Day, at the DuSable High School in Chicago, Illinois, is Mississippi Day, featuring Mississippi's best, including the Dixons. This is the last known photo taken of Linzy backstage shortly after the Chicago concert in May of 1980.
Ain't nobody wrong, but I'm treated so bad. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Y'all want to hear that song? Y'all want to hear the song? Y'all want me to sing the song? Wave a hand if you want me to sing the song.
June 13, 14, and 15, the Dixons are scheduled to be on tour with some of the biggest names in the gospel. The Dixons were scheduled to be in New York and New Jersey with the Williams brothers, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, and also the Reverend James Cleveland. And for the first time in only a few months after the Take a Message to Heaven album's release on the Malaco label, the Dixons are headlining over national gospel artists that ranked supreme.
Imagine over the years when I bought my first cassette in Germany back in perhaps 1980, when I realized they had made it.
At the time, Linzy worked as a night shift manager at a stop-and-go convenience store located at 3919 Hanging Mouse Road in Jackson, Mississippi, and had prearranged for a co-worker to take his place for the weekend of June 13, 14, and 15. The events that followed after the prearrangements would prove to be fatal for Linzy and change the course of the Dixons forever. Several days before the tour was to begin, the promoter of the concerts took sick and had to be hospitalized. The weekend tour was canceled. Linzy decided he would go on to work.
We was at the studio and we had did some recording. We had a couple groups in that was recording. And so Don, he got ready to leave, and he left the studio and went to work.
The day that he died, we had talked on the phone because we before they got together the next morning to go pick out my dad Father's Day gift. We always buy my dad the whole works, the suits, shoes, tie, and all that. So we was supposed to meet Lizzie and Jackson that morning.
I was staying at the hospital with my grandma. She was in the hospital at the time. And so we was like switching shifts, you know. I had someone to come and release me. And at the time, I guess when he was really getting killed, or getting robbed, I was thinking about going over there sitting with him for a little while. And some just wouldn't let me do it. Because I told my aunt, I want to go there with Don and stay with him for a little while. And she said, yeah, if you want to. Then some just wouldn't let me do it. And I said, well, no, I'm going to go and get some rest so I can be ready for the next day, you know.
Linzy's fiance, Freddie Singleton, was on the phone talking to him about 4:15 a.m. Saturday.
A few minutes before Linzy died, we were talking on the phone, and someone came in the store, a customer. He told me to hold on. It was said with the intention that he would pick the phone back up and we would continue our conversation. It did not happen that way, as we know. But the last words he said to me were, hold on.
The next thing she heard were shots. The robbery netted about $72 from the store's register and Linzy's life.
Tragedy hit us all at once. It was downfall for everybody.
So about 5 o'clock that morning, that's when I got the call, say that he had got killed.
6 o'clock in the a.m. I was asleep. I think Bert called me and told me what had happened.
Around 7 o'clock that morning, my first cousin, Coley Jr., he called me and told me that Don had gotten killed. I said, Lord have mercy.
I had just gotten off work, actually, and I made it home, and at the time I was living with my mom and dad, and my dad told me to leave.
Baldwin called me and said, man, guess what? He said, man, Don got killed last night. I said, what? I said, what about? What happened? He said, at the store. He was at work, somebody robbed him.
According to newspapers, Linzy was found dead about 4:15 a.m. Saturday in the storeroom of the Stop and Go at 3919 Hanging Mouse Road. Police said Dixon had been made to lie down on the floor before he was shot at point-blank range, apparently with a .38 caliber handgun. There were no signs of a struggle. The cash register is found on the floor.
Way the doctor said, it was like, when they shot him, it just killed him instantly, so I had to be in the heart, I guess.
While detectives searched for the killer, violence struck again. 4 a.m. Monday, Xavier Fairley, 21, a store clerk at Mr. Quick Food Mart at 1602 Robinson Street, is severely wounded after being shot once in the back. A small amount of cash is missing from the register. While the search intensified even more, police said informants tipped them off to the identity and whereabouts of Leo Edwards and his 24-year-old accomplice, Michael White. On Tuesday, at a city council meeting, Jackson Mayor Dale Danks asked convenience store operators to consider closing earlier. 1:30 a.m. Wednesday, Malcolm Vaught, 27, a gas station attendant, is shot once and dies during the holdup of an Eco service station near the Ridgeland exit off I-55 North. Minutes later, about 2 a.m. Wednesday, Mary Blackman, 32, of Canton, is wounded 3 times while she is robbed at a Mr. Quick Food Mart at the I-55 Canton exit. Blackman is able to telephone police after 2 robbers leave with a small amount of cash. 12:45 p.m. Wednesday, Lee Artis Newsom, in his 40s, owner of the Soulful Shack at 2900 Moonbeam Street, is found dead near Forest Avenue. Edwards and his accomplice, Michael White, were arrested Wednesday morning in Newsom's car by San Antonio police, ending what police believe was a robbery killing spree that began about June 6th and ended Wednesday, June 18th in a small northwest Mississippi town. Michael White pleaded guilty to murder in Dixon's death and the slaying of bar owner Lee Artis Newsom and was sentenced to life terms. Edwards, on the other hand, was convicted on April 1st, 1981 of the death of Jackson convenience store clerk Linzy Don Dixon and was sentenced to death and was executed by asphyxiation gas in Mississippi on June 21st, 1989, exactly 9 years to the date of Linzy's funeral.
I went to the funeral home, but I didn't get the chance to go to the funeral because I just couldn't take it, man. We were so close, and but I just tried to remember him the way we were.
The funeral? Oh man, I think that was one of the biggest funerals that I've seen yet.
It was one of the biggest ones that I ever been to, and it was very touching, very, very sad. And I was there myself, but I kind of also stayed in the background. But it's one that I will never forget.
Cars were parked. I don't know if you know or familiar with New Hope Church. All the way down on both sides of the road.
Among the many in attendance from the gospel music world were Frank Williams of the Jackson Southern Airs, Tommy Ellison, Ray the Snake Man McGee, and Lillian Joyner.
And so many people was there, and so many people had so many good things to say about him. And school teachers and singers, and it was just, I never seen a film like that before in my life. Yeah.
And through the funeral, I felt like if my mama held up, I was all right. But if she failed to do so, that's where our weakness really came from. If we tried to hold up for her. But as long as she was doing okay, I feel like everything else was all right.
I remember sitting at the back of the church because there were so many people there. People on the outside, everywhere. And I remember Bert walking up to the casket and she was saying, "Just call me one more time, Don. Just call me one more time." And I remember dropping my head and saying, or I might have said it out loud, "Bert, he's not gonna call you. He's not gonna call you, Bert."
It was so long and so big till his body just started like deteriorating. It's like they had to hurry up and get it over with to get the body out of there. I think it started at 11, I think it ended around about 4.
I said, if God had to take somebody, why he didn't take me? Because Don had so much to offer the world. He had the singing and, people's all in his singing and stuff. So I figured that he had more to offer to the world than I did. If he had to take somebody in the family, why it wouldn't be me?
If I only was there, either if he only could have told me what happened, or how things was, and I would have felt better, in his homegoing.
The Dixons vowed to go on singing in memory of their brother because he loved singing so much. But there was a problem. Who was going to take Linzy's place? Who could take Linzy's place? And could the group survive after such a tragic loss?
I just like to say that Don and I was very good friends, and I was just more like the Dixon singers when he passed on. We was all wondering who's going to take his place, but the Lord's always have somebody to provide when somebody's gone.
In a 1992 interview conducted by Cheryl Dixon, the Dixons' niece, Victor revealed how they were able to rebuild the group.
Was it hard to rebuild the group?
Well,
We was kind of worried about that. Who was going to fill the position, the empty space in the group. And, we was looking for that special person, and we such far and near trying to find that person, and we couldn't find them. And I remember going home one day talking to my mom and discussing my problem with her, and she told me, she said, Vic, I raised 9 of y'all. She said, search the family over. I believe you can find somebody to fill the position that Don Linzy held in the family.
And I want Dave to tell y'all what Don was saying.
Just so happened, Victor, my brother, and Earl, my brother, they come and talk to me one night, and I said, well, I'll try it and see how it work out. And sure enough, when we did the first audition, he said, this is it. So.
He come in, he's squealing like Linzy. He just can't hold it as long, but he can squeal like Linzy.
Through faith and the belief and the good support we got from Linzy from the beginning, that gave us the inspiration to go forward, and we took this and went with this. And there you had it, the Dixon Singers again.
We go out on stage and everybody started crying. It was hard for them to accept, that he was gone, like it was for us. I always admired about him. I don't care how tough things got for the group or for himself. He always would say, be thankful for the small things, and God will bless you with greater things. And he meant that.
And it worked for the Dixons.
Yeah, it worked.
That kind of, helped us out. Once he had passed, because of, a lot of places we went to, people, it was hard for them to accept us without Linzy being there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people didn't come out at first, because they didn't think that we could sing without Linzy. And they didn't buy tickets to come out. And a crowd was thin, and we all often thought about what he said. And be thankful for small things, and big things that come on later.
And big things did come for the Dixons. In 1981, they recorded another hit album, When I Crossed the River, on the Malaco label. They also had follow-up hits like Why I Had to Cry Sometimes, Cotton Fields, and Move Along Train.
Move along train, you got it. Whoa, move along train, you got it. Whoa, move along train, you got it.
And the train did move along for the Dixons. Not only did they bring to the Hazelhurst area some of the hottest gospel acts around, like the Jackson Southernairs, the Canton Spirituals, Tommy Ellison and the Five Singing Stars, and the Trudettes from out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The Dixons themselves were billed as one of the hottest gospel artists nationwide. few years later, the Dixons decided to leave Malaco Records and go back to their old stomping grounds, Copiah County Studios. And in 1984, they signed on with Church Door Records in Atlanta, Georgia, releasing yet another hit album, Sympathy Holidays. The album was another huge success for the Dixons, with follow-up hits like Wish I Had Answered.
Come and follow me. You know the master said, don't wait till tomorrow. You know you may be dead. When I was young and I wanted to play, said I wish just for one more day. Oh, don't you know I would? I had answered.
In Heavenly Grocery Store.
I had a dream not too long ago. There was a sign, Heavenly Grocery Store. As I got closer, the doors opened wide. Before I knew it, I was standing inside.
It would be almost 5 years before the Dixons record again. And by that time, and before another project would be finished, Douglas Harris would be called into the ministry, and he leaves the group. And not only that, the Copiah County studio would become known as Top Notch Studio.
Tell you when you turn your back on God, you're on your way down.
By 1989, the Dixons had recorded another album entitled On Your Way Down. Donald Dixon and Porter Dixon had come on board, along with second lead guitarist Maceo Fowler. Every song on the album was a hit, from Busybodies.
They call them busybodies. They are running everybody's business, but they're wrong. Can I get me a witness? They call them busybodies.
To Thank You, Sir. From Respect Yourself on to Work a Miracle.
Good Lord, work a miracle today.
And right today, I love to hear the Dixons sing because they sing my kind of songs, and I love them.
In the song, Victor is reminded of the 1980 tragedy death of his brother, Don Linzy.
A few years ago, something happened to the Dixon singers, and it hurted me so bad. In a town that I used to live in, Jackson, Mississippi, I received a telephone call one night. Said, Vic, what you need to do is get in a hurry, cause the brother that you love so well have lost his life. Let me see your hand if you have a mother, father, friend, or loved one to die to leave you. Don't it make you cry sometime? Don't it make you moan sometime?
In the 1992 interview with the Dixons, Victor is reminded of the one thing he missed the most about his brother.
I miss the midnight phone calls. You know, Don, he used to do most of his songwriting at night. And once he write a song, he would call me. And sometimes it'd be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. He would call me and tell me, hey man, I wrote a new song. Come on down and let's try it. Let's see what it's gonna be like. And I would get up and go down, and sure enough, he'd been and wrote a song, and me and him we'll sing it, and I'll give him my opinion of it, and you know, as usual, the song will be a hit, be a good song. That's what I miss most about Linzy, the midnight phone calls.
And how did Linzy feel about Bert being the only female in the group?
Well, he thought I was very special, and he always called me his star.
I really loved my brother, y'all. I loved my brother, y'all. But the main man, the main man is still in charge. in charge? Oh, yeah. Ain't he in charge? Oh, yeah. Ain't God in charge?
In 1991, the Dixons went back into the studios and began recording once again, but it was soon brought to an halt when Victor announced his calling into the ministry. On Your Way Down would be the Dixons' last and final album. Every year since Linzy's death, the Mississippi Gospel Music Awards give a lot of attention to artists who helped pioneer different genres of music.
And the Dixon singers were a strong contribution back in the late 70s, and when we were actually starting the Mississippi Gospel Music Awards.
Don Linzy Dixon Memorial Award is an award that's being presented by the Mississippi Music Award Committee. Each year that award is being presented to the one that achieved the greatest achievement in that particular year.
It's the highest award that can be given that anybody can receive.
A lot of people do not understand the significance of Don Dixon. And Don was an outstanding singer, as with the Dixon singers, and producer and writer. And he worked with a friend of mine, James Bennett, who was running a record label here that the group was performing with and recording with. And so I formed a relationship with them through Mr. James Bennett. And we just had a special relationship with Doug and Victor and all those guys, and they were like brothers to me. And so there was a real family-like thing there. And Don was so encouraging to everybody, and everybody has so much respect and love for him. And the fact that he was taken away from us, and the way he was taken away from us really struck at the heart of this industry. And I never wanted to let his spirit die. And I remember, and I believe that a man is never dies as long as his name is spoken. So long live Don Linzy Dixon, Linzy Don Dixon. We say it in different ways at different times. But it's such an inspiration to the young artists when they say, what am I, a person in the business, so what am I nominated for? And you say, well, you're nominated for Linzy Don Dixon Award. And you say, well, who was it? Because a lot of people don't know. And then when they hear, the first thing they say is, I'm honored that I'm being associated with his name. And we are honored with Mississippi Gospel Music Awards and Jackson Music Awards.
It was just a privilege of playing with this guy, and he was just a guy that was real ahead of his time in his music.
He was ahead of his time, I definitely know that. His music was, even music of today, I would say.
He created, he had it then, back then, you know, before he got here. He was already doing it.
This music is ready to be released now because it's way ahead of his time.
He was just that type of a person. He really believed in putting 100% into what he did.
I believe, like other people, that Linzy did write and sing about his own life.
Sometimes I wonder,
especially those last songs that he wrote.
Lord, I wonder why. Oh, Lord.
I feel like he was talking about himself.
Why could things always, why they always pass me by?
Maybe he wasn't, but it just seemed that way things went down, you know, with him. I feel like he was really talking about himself.
I can't help but ask the Lord over and over and over and over and over. Help me, cause I can't. No. Oh, no.
He had message in each song. And them songs was pertaining to something he had experienced in life.
things got a little rough for him from time to time, and as they gotten rough with him, he began to mold it into songs and brings out songs of his life. And the majority of the songs that he put together was about his life concerning himself and concerning his own feelings, things that he had went through.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like where he got his momentum from, you know, is the way he was brought up.
His skin was so rusty because my mom water broke. She still went to 9 months. So I think that's what messed his skin up.
And all of a sudden the heart just stopped.
He just went that way. He went forward and messed his face all up.
He was out there one rainy day, mowing the yard, cut his toe off.
They cut 3 of them, but he cut 1 of them all the way off.
Got kicked by me.
But his footprint was marking in Don's head.
Bullets were coming from everywhere.
They shot the car up real bad.
You just had to see the bullet holes that were on the side of his car.
Bad.
And his back window just totally out.
You wouldn't have believed that a person would have lived out of that.
He had a song that I had it hard coming up through the year, and Linzy did have a hard time.
The lyrics of his songs were to self.
I think a person cannot reach anyone until he first reach himself.
It's as though he was writing a letter to himself.
And when you're talking about what you experienced and what you've gone through, what better way to reach yourself, and then the spirit, what from the heart goes to the heart.
You know, when you write a Dear John letter, the letter was almost like Dear Linzy, to God, Dear Linzy.
I think most any man would that would appeal to him, you know, about himself, you know, because he know more about himself than he do anybody else.
God was Linzy's main #1 attraction. You know, he believed in the Lord and he sung about it, and it was as though he was trying to relay a message. Especially the song Take a Message to Heaven. It's as though he knew somewhere in the very near future that he would be taking a message to heaven. I mean, how can you take a message to heaven unless you go there, right?
So he sung out of his heart because he really knew what he was talking about. And that's how he reached, I believe, so many other people.
In January of 2004, 13 years after the release of their last album, On Your Way Down, the legendary Dixon singers, as they were now called, reunited one last time as honorees to receive the Day of Unity's Gospel Pioneer Award.
Awards presented to the Dixon singers on behalf of the Day of Unity Committee, this the 18th day of January 2004. We just want to say we appreciate you all for what y'all have done through your music in Copiah County to touch the lives and change the lives of the people here. We want you all to keep on keeping on.
The Dixons sung a lot of their hit songs, like Thank You Sir, Respect Yourself, When I Cross the River, Cotton Fields, and Take Care of Me, in memory of their brother.
The late Don Linzy Dixon, he loved the Dixon singers
He loved singing. I want you to know that Don Linzy, he was respected by groups, singers all over the world. Joe Lagon, Mighty Clouds of Joy, Shirley Caesar, they always respected Don Linzy Dixon. Matter of fact, some have stated that there are no person that will portray talent as Don Linzy Dixon had ever again. I thank God for him. Young man, great man. And listen, if he was here, he would say, I don't know what you want the Lord to do for you.
Linzy was always putting other people first. He was always trying to help someone. Whatever he had, he was willing to give to help someone else.
God used Don to be a builder. God knew the length of the time span that Don had on this earth, and he used Don to be a builder, and Don made an impact in so many people's lives.
He was a lot of help to a lot of groups and a lot of songsters, and I would say throughout the state of Mississippi.
Person that always carried a smile and always was a kind of a person that really felt like that in order to gain friends, he must show himself friendly, and he always did that in a very significant way.
He could criticize you in a way that you wouldn't know he criticized you. He would always tell you, well, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. Just wouldn't come out and say, well, hey, that's wrong.
I want to tell y'all what Don was saying.
I know can't nobody take his place. And I just kind of like fell in to kind of fill in the spot. I've been far and near. I never heard anyone come even close.
Oh, Linzy, man, he was genuine. He really believed that was his calling, and everybody around him believed that was his calling. Linzy had a special gift.
He sang with feeling. You got a lot of gospel singers. They'll act Carol with Don. He sang from his heart.
Self can't explain, self can't accept the things that happen. But we accept what God, and this was in God's plan to take him from us. But it's still there that you know, oh my God, how awesome this man would have been.
He was just like no other. He was extraordinary.
You know?
And that's what I admired about him very much. He took it very serious.
It really hurt when all of the good things in your life seem like they're overshadowed by all of the bad things. This song is about me. Every time
Don was getting ready to take us to another level in gospel music. And I was enjoying it because, you know, it was something that music to me was like a hobby. And to those guys, you know, that was their way of life.
That music was life for him.
Right now, I believe if Don had been still living, ain't no telling where he could have took us and himself for us in the gospel field.
If he had been here today, man, he would just been all kinds of big, you know, renowned, you know, gospel singer, you know. I mean, he'd been on the top.
I think if he had lived, he would have been just what he said, because he had made a great effort to do that.
He was excited to see how far he had gone.
I don't think he even took time to look down and see how far he had really come.
Linzy was a legend for his own time. And the time that, I mean, the things that he did and the lives that he touched, I don't think they gave him, I don't think they gave him the right, they didn't show him the right appreciation which he should have gotten.
I think he should be in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame because of his dedication to gospel music.
What advice can you give a new group just starting out?
The greatest advice that we can give to any new group or anybody
It's the same advice that was given to us by our brother, the late Don Linzy Dixon. Be thankful for the small things, and God will bless you with greater things.
He said that almost on a daily basis. That was what he lived by. He said it's the little bitty things that people tend to overlook. And if you just be thankful for those, then God will give you greater things.
He started that when he was a little young boy. I say in his teens. He always kept that slogan, be thankful.
But the last words he said to me were, hold on. Those words have been a mountain of strength for me throughout the years. I didn't know at the time how I would need to use those words to weather many storms and other tribulations. But those last words have comforted me in a lot of bad times. So even in his death, he is still helping people, and he is well remembered for all the things that he tried to do and did to help people. So that's what I'm doing and try to do every day, is to hold on.
His spirit, his name will live on, because his name will forever be spoken within Mississippi Gospel Music Awards.
And there will never be another Don Linzy Dixon.
Coming up through these years. And that is that you got all power in your hands. You see and you know about everything. And all I had to do was call you by your name. You just